You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 4 of Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast with your host, Solus. And I hope this finds everybody well. As mentioned in episode 3 of Beyond the Verse, CIG never fails to give us a bombshell right before this show. So last week it was there's going to be 2 wipes in 3.18.1 and 0.2. This time they just launched 3.18.1 last night. So we have quite a lot of material to cover. But for tonight's show, we'll get into that. We got an amazing community spotlight with an individual most of you already know, but there's a cool story. There's a cool tie-in that I didn't really know this person. I was gonna highlight him for different reasons. Come to find out, he's actually done a lot for the community and a lot for CIG, Robert Space Industries, in the game. So I can't wait to get into the community spotlight. We'll go through the update on the patchwork, what to expect in 3.18.1. There was a lore drop on Tuesday that dealt with the portfolio of Widow. So with that, I do want to give a disclaimer to this podcast. Listener discretion advised. There is adult themes to discuss in this show that includes narcotics and opioids and synthetics. So if you're like me, I've got a 7-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, I would probably be concerned after hearing this story, but that's just me, right? So viewer discretion, listener discretion advised. We'll get into the repost of Squadron 42's monthly report. They went through and talked about the AI updates, graphical updates, gameplay updates for Squadron 42. And here's the so what here. Most of you are listening because of Star Citizen, but a win in Squadron 42 is a win in Star Citizen. So all the advancements that they're making for the single player game, Squadron 42, can be considered a win for this multiplayer MMO experience, the simulation of Star Citizen. So we'll get into that. Again, the 3.18.1 live release also brings in a free fly event. So if you've been around for more than a month, you know what a free fly event is, but that will be going live between now and April 20th. We'll discuss a little bit about that. And then the main purpose of this show, the last half of the show, is the next 80 years of lore, of major milestones that has taken place in Star Citizen. So on the first show, we did the first 150 years that took us basically into space. Then we did the next 60 years. And then this 80 years we're dubbing the firsts in space. So we'll tackle the first contact with the alien race Banu, with an alien named Jerry, right? We'll talk about the campaign to mass transport humans from Earth, right, to live in other systems, and the formation of the United Nations of Earth. So pretty awesome dialogue. But before we get into all that, I'm super excited to get into our community spotlight.
Incoming message.
A reminder to the community real quick. Feel free to email us at starcitizenbtv@gmail.com if you would like to contribute to the show. Questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, please send those emails our way. I'll do my best to address all the topics as we've done in other shows and other games. That's kind of where the fun comes out. You get a voice and we talk about what is concerning you and your opinions. So feel free to please email. But without further ado, I am honored. Nay, I am blessed to be joined by the one and the only Joran. Joran, say hi, sir.
Hello. Good to be here.
It's so good to have you.
Embarrassingly flattering.
In the spotlight, but you have plenty of experience in the spotlight. But hey, real quick, my story with Joran, it's actually a really funny one. My point in setting out for the community spotlight was going and finding maybe low contributors, like not necessarily the Joran levels, but individuals that were doing things in the community. Like 2 weeks ago, we did Ruben Soros. He was creating iPhone wallpapers just to share with everybody. We did Star Jump, right? Star Jump is creating that fleet viewer, has YouTube videos on concept ships. So again, highlighting those individuals. I wanted to highlight Joran simply because if you're a concierge member and you have ever gone into the concierge chat, this dude has like witchcraft going on. I don't know how he does it, but he knows when it's somebody's first time entering concierge and he welcomes you. And it's one of the coolest things in community, and all the games that I've played and all the games that I've content created for. It's always the welcoming that gets judged first, right? It's always like Elder Scrolls Online or World of Warcraft or Call of Duty. You know, is it a welcoming community? And Joran, I'll shut up for a little bit, but you have done an amazing job taking down that barrier and making people feel welcome. So thank you for that. If you wanted to respond.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I actually come from Second Life. I don't even really consider myself a really serious gamer because I didn't play a lot of games for a very, very long time, and I wasn't involved in MMO communities online.
Yeah.
And back in 2007, I joined Second Life, and I had lots of friends that either had nightclubs or they were DJs. And I would be there, and anytime somebody comes into the club, then everybody's very welcoming to them. And it always really kind of struck me as it being that kind of friendly person, and especially coming from Texas, and just being a really empathetic and I like to be nice to people.
Yeah.
And when I came into Star Citizen and I started to get into various Discords, and eventually when Concierge opened up in beginning of 2017, I kind of took that same approach to kind of just welcome new people and people that I've seen. And in my Discords, I always say good morning to everybody and greet them all individually whenever people come in. And I do that across multiple different Discords that I run. And started doing that in Concierge as just like trying to create that welcoming environment and a nicer, friendlier place, because it is such a wonderful community, and it doesn't take that much to create that tone,
right?
And over the years, everybody else really has, and all the regulars have kind of carried on that tradition. And if somebody comes in and they say that they're new, it's like I just got into Concierge and like I never thought I'd get here, and everybody starts welcoming them and showing them the GIF and all that, and I'm really proud for how it's become kind of the concierge community way to be nice to people and welcome. And they even mentioned it in one of the, and Sandy wrote an intro to one of the concierge newsletters back in I think 2019 about how welcoming concierge was. Like, yes, that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I can already tell that like you're really humble about it too. Like you're not going to take like full ownership of that, but like you also need to know, and let me tell you, that message from Sandy more than likely is about you, because not everybody, in fact, the majority of people aren't getting onto concierge chat to just welcome people. They're getting on to either bitch about the game, let's be honest, right? They're getting onto that, or they're wanting to brag about like the new ships, which is phenomenal. Do that. Brag about the ships you're getting. Absolutely. Fleet picks from Star Jump. Shout out last week's community spotlight.
Oh man, he's awesome. Love Star Jump.
Absolutely. But you're pioneering this kind of just welcoming community and this conversation that's happening in concierge chat. So again, thank you so much for doing that. However, that's not really what you're known for, is it, Jordan? So I go ahead, man.
People,
what else do you do?
To some people, that's what I'm known for in concierge. But I started back in 2016. Ended up getting into Bar Citizen, and it was Gray Headed Gamer, if you remember him, who's also in Florida.
Yes.
Asked me to kind of spearhead a Florida statewide Bar Citizen, because Twerk17 was down here. He was here. DJ Knight was here, and we had several other streamers. We had a pretty active streamer community, and we knew that there were a lot of other people in the state. But he was busy doing a lot of other stuff, and he asked me if I'd take point. So I went and scoured Spectrum to try to understand what Bar Citizen was, because I didn't really know what it was. Like, oh, it's some kind of meetup. And you're in Austin. That's where it started in 2014, I think. 2013. But it never really took off because people were using Spectrum to try to connect. And, it's like, who goes there to the forums to try to connect with people on a real-time basis? And people, it's like, well, hey, let's get together. And a couple of months later, somebody would check and say, it's like, oh, yeah, let's get together. And some more months would pass, and eventually a few people would kind of connect. And it never really took off outside of a few areas where there was somebody who really kind of took point and pretty hardcore about it, and maybe also took it to Facebook or something. And so once I did the one in Florida, and it blew up, and I connected with Tyler and CIG, and they really supported it. He flew out from Austin. We had over 80 people there, and it changed my life.
Absolutely.
And I'm oldish. I'm 52 now. So this was 6 or 7 years ago, and I hadn't really had any gamer friends or nerd friends my whole life.
Yeah.
And since I've been married, so it really just affected me really deeply, and just this passionate fire to bring this to more people.
Yeah.
And another friend of mine in STL Youngblood's Discord said, it's like, you should start up another Discord and, kind of like take this worldwide and bring in people and, and take it to other states and other countries.
Yeah.
And so I did. I started another Discord and reached out to people and found some people that were doing it in Germany and in the UK. Guy who was doing Con 42 in Germany. He's out of Switzerland. Guy who was doing Britizen Con back then. Few other locals, and then we got a group together to create the barcitizen.sc website and kind of spread that word. And I help people set up Discords around the world, all over the US and all over Europe and Asia and like all over. We've got probably 70 plus Bar Citizen Discords around the world now.
Yeah. And
it's just really, really exploding, and that's my biggest passion.
Well, I'm going to pause because you have more. You have more things that you've contributed. So we'll get to that in a second. But the Bar Citizen thing is huge. And we talked about it before we got live, but not everybody gets to participate in conventions, right? I think the majority of gamers would love to go to San Diego and be part of these, not CitizenCon because that's in LA, but these conventions.
TwitchCon.
TwitchCon, absolutely, all these conventions. But 9 times out of 10, people can't make that. They've got lives that they have to maintain, and they can't spend the money to go fly out there. So it's brilliant that you've brought that, the benefits of going to one of those conventions. You've been able to pioneer that coming to the gamer. And it's not just central, in Austin, Texas, for all of Texas. There's a Houston one, there's a San Antonio one, there's an Austin one, there's a Dallas one. Anywhere you live, basically, you have access to a Bar Citizen. And just quickly, I know you're a guest on here, and I want to get back to you, but quickly, my story with a Bar Citizen is actually really cool. It's my first time ever doing anything with the gaming community in person. But I was actually going to San Antonio for my brother's Bar Citizen, and there was 20 of us that showed up. But lo and behold, Galactica and Jake Acapella were there. And it blew our minds. 20 of us got to sit down with the social media manager and the community manager, absolutely, and got t-shirts, we got pins, we got to ask questions, and it was right before the best in show voting. So we were like, Jake, which ship do you think is going to be best in show? Which one do you think is going to be, elected? It was just a phenomenal experience over a beer. I would actually say it's better than conventions, because you're able to have a beer and whiskey and sit down and have just a normal conversation.
Yeah, and especially in a smaller group,
Yeah.
the really big ones they look great in pictures and they're very exciting and
Yeah.
there's a lot of energy, but you never really get to have real conversations.
Right.
And like 20 people and less, you can actually sit and just talk for hours
Right.
about so many different things. And it's a more intimate connecting experience than
Right.
the really big events. There's a place for both. But
Absolutely.
I love the smaller Bar Citizens
Absolutely.
almost more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Now, I am blessed to be able to go to CitizenCon this year, so I will be there, and I'm sure you're going to be there too. But I will echo that sentiment and say, honestly, give me like 40 people in Austin, Texas, and I'm golden. Like that'd be a lot of fun, just to sit back and relax. But that's not it, Jordan. You got another one, right? Like, so
Yeah.
you also run an 890 jump community, and I think that's a really cool story if you want to get into that. But what is that all about?
Yeah, so back in 2016, I got a bug for the 890. I joined up, became a backer when 2.0 launched at the end of 2015. So 2016 was like my first year as a backer, and when I look back, I thought that I became concierge with my 890, but it was actually much sooner than that. It was with the exploration pack in the summer of 2016, so it was
Oh
like
yeah,
less than 9 months. Way back then, I became concierge.
yeah.
It's like, wow, that was fast.
It doesn't take much.
It kind of adds up over time. A 350 here, a freelancer Dura there, exploration pack here,
Yeah, yeah,
and I started to think about it differently than how I had been seeing it as just like a space game.
yeah,
And I didn't really know what it was going to be in the future.
yeah.
I just saw it as this cool space game and spaceships and flying around in Arena Commander and that. And I I really wasn't fully educated on how big the scope was going to be. And then
Right.
I started to realize that, and then I saw the 890 and what the 890 would be in the verse, and realized this is going to be my second life
Yeah.
in space, which Chris Roberts has said in the past that
Yeah.
there's this correlation, like we're trying to build this virtual universe in space, sci-fi, all that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like this isn't just a space game and pew pew and grinding. Like, I want to socialize and hang out with people and fly
Yeah.
around the verse and it's like have a magnificent space yacht. So
Yeah.
I got that at the anniversary sale at the end of 2016, and I thought, like, yeah, I wonder if there's some other really crazy people that are spending $1,000 on
On
a
a ship.
space yacht that's not even flyable yet.
Uh,
Like, so I started Discord, of course, as we do.
Yep.
And it's like gathering a few people here and there, and like, wow, it's like I already loved the Star Citizen community and the space nerds,
Yeah.
and how much we have in common with Star Wars and Star Trek and all these other things. But then I got this more kind of distilled group that felt even more similar to me about
Yeah.
what Star Citizen was going to be for them.
Sure.
Not just a pew pew grinding kind of game, but being able to just really enjoy the immersion and like blowing a bunch of money on a luxury space yacht.
Yeah.
You got to be crazy, and yeah, these crazy nerds are like a microcosm of the crazy Star Citizen community that are even more like me.
Yep.
And it's like these are my nerds.
Yep.
And I've got over 900 owners in the Jump
Yeah.
Club now on the Discord,
Yeah.
and then that's where some of us started after CitizenCon in Austin. It's like we thought, well, there's not really a good show, content creators that have a high level backer perspective, very positive about the big picture of development.
Yeah.
Because back in 2018, and we'd come out at 2.6.3 and 3.0 was just kind of coming out, and there's a lot of salt in the content creators.
Sure.
So 4 of us got together and started the Yacht Club show beginning of 2019, and we just had our 4th year of weekly every Wednesday, like 200 and some odd. We're 206 shows now.
Oh, jeez.
It's been a crazy wild ride, and
Yeah.
it's been great to be able to have that to also leverage the obsessive daily studying of the project development,
Yeah.
and then to create another community around the yacht club where it's more open to really anybody who just has a kind of laid back, positive
Yeah.
view of the verse, and we've got semi pirates in there, but there's no like bad people.
Yeah.
They're like Han
Well,
Solo
they're
smugglers.
gamers. Yeah, they're
Right?
gamers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, another community of fun people, and it's like everything for me is about this community. And it's like now I've got
Yeah.
so many between, like I'm in 130 plus discords.
Yeah.
70 of those are bar citizen, and I've got the jump club and the yacht club and concierge, and
Yeah.
luckily I've got 6 screens and 12 square feet of space. I run
Jeez,
3
yeah.
separate Discord instances plus concierge chat.
Yeah. And you're kind enough to join me on this call, or on this podcast. Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. I am so sincere about like just wanting to highlight the fact that you were greeting people on concierge chat that I thought Yacht Club. Now, this was before I did research on you, but I thought Yacht Club was like the 400i. Right, because like nothing is more yacht than the 400i. Like that looks like a boat with freaking feet to land on. It's crazy. So it's just interesting that you've had this much reach into the community. So I mean that's crazy. Now as far as the yacht club is concerned, like what's the premise of that show? That's beyond the 890 jump, right? Are y'all talking news?
Yeah.
Are y'all talking like updates and stuff?
Yeah, so it's a 2-hour show. It used to be 3 to 4 hours, and we start at 10 o'clock Eastern at night. So it's like because half our cast is on the West Coast, so that's 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
For them, and so it's a weekly show to review the week's news and events in an informal hangout virtual weekly bar citizen environment. So we interact with the Twitch audience a lot. Ask questions. They ask questions of us. How's your week been? What are you drinking? What do you think about this? And we go through our yacht club community screenshots. We go through fun and funny, interesting stuff on Reddit and Twitter. And there's so many creative people making awesome videos and machinima and funny memes and just like all the crazy stuff that we see. So we try to compile all that into a couple of different segments, and then we go into reviewing in detail the Inside Star Citizen, and then we do Star Citizen Live, depending on what's going on with those, the monthly reports, and any other dev comments that happen during the week. So it's a really comprehensive weekly summary of everything that goes on with Star Citizen, from development to the community to bar citizens. We recap all the bar citizens that happen and show pictures. I go and grab those from the Discords and talk about upcoming bar citizens.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's Wednesday nights, right? Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. Awesome. Yep. So there's no doubt that you've had reach and influence and impact. I think the one question, because we're almost at time that I promised you, the one question I have for you that is beyond just your impact in the community, that I love asking people just in general, even if like a bar citizen, I would ask somebody this, but what are you most excited about? Like what in the next, I don't know, 30, 60, 90 days or 3 years, 9 years down the road, like what excites you the most about either Squadron 42 or Star Citizen?
I think it's really the long-term big picture of creating this super immersive universe where what we have is just a tiny microcosm of what's to come. And most of the people that have come in over the past couple of years really have no idea how much more is planned, with scores of star systems and hundreds of planets and thousands of moons and space stations and multiple alien races and all these things. CIG doesn't talk about those anymore, because they're focused on what's going on right now in the immediate future, because it is a long way off. But I take a really long-term view of where we're going. I love what we've got and I enjoy it, but the scope and excitement of having that Star Wars Star Trek universe to step into and live in, that's what excites me. I'm going to Goss and going to Terra and having a penthouse overlooking the nebulas and the mountains and like the twin suns.
Yeah.
Some cool things to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll leave you with this. One of my favorite loops lately has been taking my 890 jump, which I've named Elegance of the Void. I love taking that to a far-off planet in the middle of nowhere and just parking it, right? Because you can spawn in it. You can use it as a medical bay. You can put ships in the hangars and garages. Like, it's basically its own spaceport. But you talk about immersion. You talk about to get excited about a game that you could just get lost in. I have spent several days just on the moon of Daymar. I have picked a place that's like in the middle of nowhere, but it's a great view where the sun rises in my window and it sets in my conference room in 890.
Crusader.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. But like, that's my favorite loop, and it's not even like playing the damn game. It's literally just spawning in, like, oh, I'm gonna go make some coffee. It is. That's right.
And I'll kind of end with this. It's like, I always say, it's not a game. It's so much more. Yeah. And I joke it's a lifestyle, but it really is a fully immersive universe. Yeah. And doing just that is what it's all about. It's not just about game loops. Yeah. About having to follow the missions and do those things. It's about enjoying this universe that they're building and these incredible spaceships that nobody has ever done anything like before.
Absolutely.
Like owning your own Millennium Falcon or Star Trek Enterprise. Like, we own our spaceships now.
Absolutely. Well, Jordan, if viewers on YouTube or listeners on the podcast want more of you or the Yacht Club or any of your other endeavors, where can we find more of you?
So every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, on twitch.tv/YachtClubBC. That's for Bar Citizen, and then also on Twitter. Occasionally, my tolerance for Twitter has diminished a lot, so I can only take it in small doses here and there. That's Joran_SC. I'm also on YouTube, Star Citizen Joran, JoruNN. I've got a YouTube channel. I make occasional content on there. I keep meaning to, once life settles down and I can refocus on that, I want to make regular weekly content there because I have so much to say, and it just takes a little bit to ramp up the production.
Yeah,
those videos. A lot of respect for folks who do.
Absolutely. Well, Jordan, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Absolutely, it's been an honor having you. Great conversation. You're welcome back at any point. Feel free to reach out. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jordan. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, man. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. What a great conversation. And that is my intent with the community spotlight. It's not just, this shotgun blast of like, hey, here's somebody to follow, but to have a dialogue, to have a conversation with somebody as impactful or influential as a Joran. And again, out of all sincerity, I had no idea who I was pursuing. I was like, hey, this guy says hi. It meant a lot to me in concierge chat. Well, come to find out, he's done like, I don't know, everything. So it's very cool. All right, so we're 30 minutes into this podcast. We're halfway through, and we're just now done with the community spotlight. I think it's been a great conversation. I hope you think so as well. But let's get into the rest of the show. So on Tuesday, they launched their This Week in Star Citizen, right? So usually it happens on Mondays. This past weekend was Easter. My assumption is vacations took place. People were out of the office. But this happened on Tuesday. And so I wanted to read a little bit of their patchwork or their opinions on the current patchwork and what to expect. Even though 3.18.1 launched last night, this is what came as their narrative on Tuesday. So I'm sitting here with the notes, so you don't have to. But just some highlights after looking through their This Week in Star Citizen. So 3.18.1 primarily focuses on the ASOP delivery feature. Now, there's kind of a cool aesthetic and a gamer experience here, but there's also like a reason behind it, like a technology database reason behind it. So from a gamer perspective, I actually loved it. I was able to log into New Babbage. I was able to go to the ASOP terminals. And what's interesting is I usually like to go to the closest like satellite spaceport, like a Kessler or a Bajini Point. But I like getting outside of the capital city and establishing my foothold there. So I went up to Kessler? I don't know. I'm new in New Babbage, but I went up to that satellite spaceport, and I ended up transferring all of my ships to that location. And this is like the different awesome experience. You just click delivery. So on the far right where you would normally click claim, and it would take, 7 minutes to an hour and 7 minutes to get a ship to your location. The first time you do this after a reset, it's 20 seconds. So PSA, public service announcement, go to the place that you want to put your foothold in or establish as your foothold, and then call all of your ships, because it's 20 seconds. Every single ship when you hit delivery is 20 seconds, and it puts your ship into that foothold. So I've got all of my ships within like 5 minutes. I had all my ships available to me in Kessler. So that's, from a gaming experience, that was awesome. Now, after you do that, you then have to claim it, and you have to wait your claim time, 7 minutes, hour and 7 minutes, and so forth. Excuse me. But that's a really cool, awesome experience. However, there is a technical, like I said, there's a technical reason for this happening. They created some tools that were tailored to 3.18 load testing that allowed that freed up space on the back end. So, and I don't know the numbers, I don't really know the full deep dive analysis, but in doing this, it enabled the entitlement. It expedited the entitlement phase of characters logging in. So super awesome there. I'll just read verbatim the highlight. Tools tailored for 3.18 load testing as virtual service clients were augmented and deployed to improve the resilience of the system overall. Again, updated automation tools that validated whether the system functions or not as it should under different conditions without needing QA groups or PTU deployments. So, if you listened to Beyond the Verse a couple episodes ago, we read the message from Xylo. He made comment, or he mentioned about trying to expedite the PTU, maybe even bypassing the PTU, and just launching our new patches. And so that's what they've started doing. So they've load tested, or they've stress tested some of the live environments. And here's one part that kind of, I don't know, it might rub you the wrong way. Depends on how you want to view it. But they're also looking at killing random services or restarting services while the workloads are running. And so if you were in the game last weekend and things were finicky and like more delicate than normal, this is probably why, right? They're killing programs in the back end. They're doing those stress tests on the PU, so they're not having to take time creating an alpha state in the PTU. So very awesome there. Moving quickly because we're still in just this week in Star Citizen. Last but not least, they're analyzing and optimizing the cloud footprint of the game to resize and adjust the layout of the clusters and regions where the game hosts services. So 3.18.1, it's not this huge life-changing experience on the gaming side, right? Like on the client side. But from a development standpoint, this was huge for them. And I'll be honest, since launching last night, Wednesday night, I've had a smooth experience. It's been a very awesome experience logging in, being in it for several hours, logging out, and nothing going wrong. No error messages. I need to knock on wood after I say all this. So far, so good. Well, I hope it stays that way. So that is This Week in Star Citizen. We also had a lore drop on Tuesday, the same day. And again, I'm going to say listener discretion advised. It's really not, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, but this is narcotics. This is opioid, use and whatnot. So I do want to get into, and I think it's a really interesting portfolio, but it kind of helps explain Jumptown. If you're familiar with like Jumptown and the PvP, it kind of explains that, but also this currency or this drug trade that is, happening. And so because this isn't a deep dive of the lore in my feature that I have on my podcast, I'm just going to go through the highlights real quick. Feel free to go onto the comm link, look at it yourself, read the full story. I think it's a legit good portfolio. But just the highlights. So there was a glitch in the system causing Widow, which Widow is the drug, to sell at deep discounts, causing the Jumptown PvP events. So if you've ever been part of a Jumptown, you log into the game and there's this like NPC that hops up on the top of your screen, and it's, hey, here's a warning. We need you as a good citizen to go down and help us because we don't have enough resources to do it ourselves. But there's just drug smuggling that's happening all over the place. And so you've got this, again, a glitch in the system that made this drug super cheap. And that's causing everybody to just come into one place, right? So we all, as gamers, we all kind of flock over to Crusader, which is where the last Jumptown was. We flocked over to Crusader, and it was all hell broke loose, right? Like A2s dropping bombs on everybody, Eclipses torping everybody. It was just, it's insane. If you're not into PvP, avoid Jumptown. So I think that's an interesting, like, it kind of helps us understand. So the next highlight, it actually originated in 2861. So again, Star Citizen in this current moment is in 2953. So this is almost 100 years ago, right? Like 98 years ago. So almost 100 years ago. It originated back to the discovery of the OSO system. So OSO, the OSO system. There was this analysis done where the biomes were lush and fruitful. And so there was this lockdown of any activity that was going on in any of the planets or any of the systems within OSO. So they locked it down in the Fair Chance Act. So no one can access it. It had to go through a rigorous legal or political process. But in that process, in the scientific research of the biomes of OSO, they developed this process of cross-breeding of plants, right? So just like here on Earth, right? Just like real life, there's scientific experiments. And so they were doing this scientific experiment by crossbreeding Night Spiral to create, they ended up discovering that this created the night opioid. And it was this very popular, sought after opioid in the, I guess, dark or the black market. But it ended up creating a desire for a synthetic creation of this opioid, right? So opioids are this night that came from the Night Spiral plant. That's obviously a limited resource. So there was an effort done to make it a synthetic process, and it was actually perfected. The synthetic process was perfected in 2879. So this is about 18 years later. So OSO was discovered 2861. They perfect the synthetic process of creating this opioid in 2879. And they ended up distributing that synthetic to gangs, right? Long story short, and I'll end up here. So it all ends with this really cool kind of lore tie with this character called Callie O'Brien. So in 2880, there was this socialite, Callie O'Brien. Her friends were leaking stories about her weight loss and her veins turning black, which looked like a web, right? That looked like like a spider's web around her neck, her arms, right, her whole body. And they ended up labeling her the Black Widow. So you've got night-night opioid. There's a synthetic process to convert it. And now you've got this character that has been taking it, who's well known, that now has the name Black Widow. You can kind of come to your own conclusion. This is how we have Widow in the current state in Star Citizen. Well, the United Empire Earth government declared Widow as one of the most significant public health issues of the 30th century and designated it as a Class A narcotic. So there you have it. Again, I've said it before that it's not just say there's a drug, you're going to find it, you're going to sell it, or you're going to destroy it, and that's a loop in the game. Like it's a pretty in-depth dialogue or a pretty in-depth narrative about this one drug. And there's many other drugs, right? There's many other drugs in this game, and especially with the launch of Pyro. Pyro is a system that's going to have unlawful governance or activities. You're going to have a great opportunity to get into a lot of these different stories and backstories. So that's just one of them. That's Widow, right? All right, so there you go. There's the lore drop that happened on Tuesday. Go read it. It's actually a really well-written story about it. And then on Wednesday, we had the reposting of Squadron 42's monthly report. And so it's 8 pages of notes here. If you're on YouTube, here. let me just hold this up. It's 8 pages of notes. And I went through and highlighted just like things that meant something to me. But again, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, a win in Star Citizen is a win. I'm sorry, a win in Squadron 42 is a win in Star Citizen. So you're going to see some of these things hopefully come to fruition in what we're playing. So again, 8 pages of notes. I am hopefully doing this for you. So whether you're in a car, running, walking, however you're listening to this podcast, I'm doing the work for you. So some highlights that meant something to me. So for AI content, improved interactive entity positioning to the Idris Stanton and setting up personal inventory for the ship's engineer. I highlighted this just because there is this concept, there's this idea that if you fly like a capital ship, even like an 890 jump, but an Idris, a Kraken, any of those massive ships, heck, even the Galaxy or some of these that Perseus, Polaris, there's this idea that you're going to be able to have an NPC crew. And so you might have engineers or cooks or aviators. I say aviators, but explorers, right? You might have these individuals that you can hire. And this is kind of starting the groundwork. Again, this is for Squadron 42, but establishing like a ship's engineer, right? That has personal inventory on the Idris. Continuing on, enabling AI to use trolleys in the Idris's elevator. A locker entity was added too, where NPCs can change their outfits. So again, having this like living, breathing world that might not require a player to be on the ship, but you're walking around and you're seeing AI or NPCs, non-player characters, walking around your ship. That to me is exciting, because I'm not always going to have my org of 20, 30, 40 people in my ship at a time. I might be playing at 2 o'clock in the morning. It would be nice to have some NPCs running the ship, right? Or helping run the ship. Next highlight. For example, the sync usable now includes idle and usable actions for different use cases, whether a mirror is present or not. So again, functionality in your ships. So we all have our favorite ships. We walk in there might be toilets, there might be sinks, there might be mirrors, things that you can interact with. They're starting to make progress on being able to make coffee and move cups around and stuff on your ships. So that's exciting for me. And finally, the janitor behavior, which was parked in 2021, was brought back. I don't really know what the janitor behavior is. It just continues this idea of AI or NPCs doing things in the world around you to make it feel more inhabitable, or more habitable, excuse me. Moving on, AI features. The buddy leading the player along a path and stopping and waiting for the player to catch up if they get too far ahead. That seems pretty low lift. That exists in other games, but they're moving along with this idea of NPCs reacting to your behavior. I love it. Improve the following behavior. There we go. Even more. AI features also worked on 2 aspects of grenade use. AIs to throw at them. It enables the AI to behave appropriately when a grenade is thrown at them. Okay, cool. Nothing groundbreaking, but I like seeing that. Melee attack setup to get the AI to lock onto the player while attacking so that it has the possibility of connecting. Specialized melee combat behavior for a specific encounter. So they're just making it more realistic whenever you come in contact with an NPC. I'll take that. And again, if that is done in Squadron 42, they can copy and paste into Star Citizen. Love it. All right, moving into the section AI Tech. Navigation systems and AI tool features. NPCs will be able to follow or search for players inside vents. That's cool. That's very specific. I'm trying to figure out why they felt the need to specify vents. It immediately makes me think of like the Mercury Star Runner, and having like that secret cargo that's underneath, which, by the way, if you don't know about that, go check it out. If you have a Cuddy, you have a replacement vehicle of the MSR right now, so go check it out. It's really cool. I was going to go into navigation volume cost areas in VCAs, but I think that was more just, I don't know, a nice definition to know. I'm not going to get into it. NPCs pushing trolleys, NPCs using transit system and elevators with or without trolleys. So again, just NPCs doing what they're supposed to be doing as you would expect them to in real life. Let's go into animation. Grenade throwing, healing between AI characters. Awesome. Ongoing fauna work continued. So that's all the alien creatures reacting with blackouts or blockouts for alien creatures. Movement with dogs, again, fauna work, right? Just how the world interacts with individuals. Engine work, handling of wheeled vehicles between different gravity fields. More code to make the motion blur and the Gen 12 technology better. Improvements for the temporal render mode for atmospheric and volumetric. Good Lord, clouds continued. So you can see like this is super in depth. But I want to end this with this highlight, and this to me is the coolest thing that I came across. I want to share it with you, and then we'll move on in the last 12 minutes of our show. Quote, as part of the ongoing cargo crane work, they began implementing a system to remotely control a vehicle without having to sit in its seat and directly pilot it. Yes, that would be amazing. How cool would it be if you drop your 600i, 400i, whatever it is, if you drop your ship 1,000 meters, a click away from a bunker, because you don't want to get shot down, right? So you drop it there. You get in your garage, you get into your Ursa rover, right? You get into your Ursa rover and you drive as far as you can, right? As close as you can without getting shot up, right? There's enemy patrols. You're going to get out of your vehicle and you're going to stealth your way into the bunker to conduct your mission. You clean it because you're awesome. You played Call of Duty for a day. You go in, you clean the bunker, and you do amazing work. You got to walk a click to get to your ship, or you have to walk X number of meters to get to your vehicle. How awesome would it be to pull up your Moby Glass and start directing it, right? Like moving your stuff without actually having to be inside of it. I think if we're already flying to planets and we're using jump points and we're already this advanced in 2953, I should be able to do something Tesla is doing in 2023. Let that sink in. All right. Last but not least, and I think I already threw my notes down on this one, but Alpha 3.18.1 live release and free fly event. I threw my notes down already, but it released like last night, and this has been a great experience. Also, with last night's release starting today was the free fly event. So if you are interested, you're listening to this podcast, you're watching it on YouTube, and you're interested in what the Star Citizen thing really is, now is the best time to get involved. And I mean that sincerely. best time to get involved. It's the best time to log in and experience 3.18.1. It's smooth so far. You can get all your ships. You've got 5 if you want to test them out. You got 5 ships to start out with. It is a great time to get in. Now, there's a development aspect to this, right? A producer aspect to this. Yeah, that's all sexy. It's good for the gamer. Let's get in and like test things and have fun. But from a development side, or the CIG side, this is also their stress test, right? They've got this new launch of 3.18.1. What better way to do it than just throw numbers at the servers? So I will ask those in the community that are listening that have been apart for a couple months or years, patience. This weekend might not be the smoothest weekend to play, right? But take this time to not progress in your reputation, but go help a new player. Go get on like the coaching system that we have. Get somebody new on and show them the ropes. This is probably not the weekend to go and meta out your ships, and they're going to reset in 3.18.2 anyways. It's probably not that time. Enjoy the new player experience, get them aboard, win them into the community, and let's build upon what we already have going. And that is it for this week in Star Citizen. And I am happy to get into this week's lore deep dive, which we are dubbing the Firsts in Space. In our first article, we go to 2830, called Together We Rise. Humanity seemed to be comfortably rolling towards the future. Planets in the Croshaw system were being terraformed for both habitation and resources. 3 new jump points had been discovered, 2 in Croshaw, 1 in our own. So the possibility of expanding into even more systems was becoming a reality. The heads of governments from around the world gathered for a world summit to discuss the next phase of global initiatives in space and here on Earth. No one knew that it would lead to a new direction for humanity. Date: April 23rd, 2380. Angela Breveau. It's week 2 of the World Summit, and though there have been whispers that they are getting ready to make a big announcement, no one has been able to wrangle even a hint of what the nature of this announcement is. One analyst speculates that the announcement is probably a publicity ploy to keep the media focused on the summit in a desperate attempt to keep it relevant. Even so, every day at 6 p.m., the news org crews set up in the audience chamber and wait. No indication as to whether there will be an announcement or not. This has been going on for 8 days now. April 23rd, 2380, 6:28, Standard Earth Time. Angela Breveau. About 30 seconds ago, an aide entered the audience chamber and collected the news org crews. He's leading us somewhere deeper into the complex. Maybe the announcement isn't a publicity stunt after all. As you can see, we're being led into... This is the General Assembly. All of the delegates from all the governments in the world are still here. What's going on? Gotta love doing things live, right? April 23rd, 2380, 6:42, Standard Earth Time. Delegate Yvonne Singh is at the podium, flanked by representatives of the global superpowers. Yvonne Singh. Thank you for your patience. If everyone can please begin transmitting, we will start. Good evening. It is an exciting time in human history. We stand on the threshold of a new era, where deep space exploration and colonization are not simply a possibility, they are a certainty. Advances in terraform technology and astro design are letting us travel further and further out into the cosmos. Scientists have discovered a pair of jump points in the Croshaw system which, once crossed, will open up even more planets and systems for us to explore. The goal of the summit was to ask a question. It was not, where do we go from here? It was how do we go from here? Expansion on this level cannot succeed with competing national, political, even commercial interests. Our personal squabbles seem insignificant with the breadth of space open before us. With that, the representatives of Earth have come together at this summit. We have debated and discussed, but concluded that if we are to set out into space, we must do so as a single, unified race. Therefore, we are announcing the intention to form a single governing body for this and all planets. The United Nations of Earth, the UNE. Each of the government leaders before you will return with a referendum to their respective countries. There's a lot of work ahead, many issues to address and resolve. We have a long road to building a stable working government of this magnitude. Know this. We will get there. We will be fair. We will be united. Thank you, and good night. Over the next few years, countries debated amongst themselves and argued with each other. Though few admitted, everyone knew that they wouldn't be able to maintain a consistent expansion into space on their own. It was only after the global superpowers started committing to the UNE that the remainder of the country started to follow suit. Humanity had its differences, but when it came to the universe, now we were united. So as our first article of the firsts in space, we have the creation of the UNE, the United Nations of Earth. Nothing could go wrong with a coalition, right? No comment. All right, next article, first in space. 2438, hello. And this is my favorite article for the night. First scheduled, June 12th, 2438, by Shelley Field. We always wondered. Since striking out into the universe, we felt awfully alone. Through discoveries of jump points, alien systems, it felt awfully alone to be the Black. Now everything changes, because now we know. At approximately 3:13 Standard Earth Time, Vernon Tarr, a 36-year-old explorer, was scanning for undiscovered jump points in the Davian system. Drifting through the Black, with only the hum of his deep-range scanners to keep him company, Tarr suddenly got hit. When you're in the quiet for that long, any kind of ping scares the hell out of you for a second, Tarr relayed via datacom. So I checked my display and, well, it wasn't a jump point. It was a ship. Initially thinking it was simply another explorer or lost vessel, Tarr barely acknowledged it. I almost didn't want to look at it. I was sure it was some other jumper out there looking at the same thing as me. Only when the ship drew closer did he realize what he was looking at, the first member of an alien race. After I got over my shock, I knew it was a delicate situation. We just stared at each other for a while. Tarr contacted UNE Special Operations Command and relayed his coordinates. A delegation party was quickly assembled and rushed out to the scene. Military forces were on hand in case they turned out to be hostile. The meeting lasted about 40 minutes. UNE forces were left to wait for a response from the alien race. Scientists are currently scrambling to devise programs to facilitate translation and communication, but after a millennia of civilization, we can all say that we handled first contact with the grace and dignity of a truly advanced race. From here, now we know for sure that there's another race out there, another civilization to share and grow with. Incident report submitted to H, Special Operations Command Central. Author General Neil Sokolovich. Authorized users only. Regarding alien contact. At approximately 3 this afternoon, first contact was established with an alien civilization in the Davian system. Here's an outline of what happened. Vernon Tarr was searching the system for jump points when his systems picked up a contact. Assuming it was just another explorer, he opened fire before realizing that it was, in fact, an alien vessel. He got scared and called it in. We isolated the comm to keep a lid on the situation and rushed to the scene as quick as we could and immediately enacted standard containment protocol in media blacks. As best as we could tell, the alien, hereafter named Jerry, seemed shaken up and annoyed at being fired upon by Tar. We didn't want to press the issue, so we tried to calm Jerry down using pantomime techniques. Immediately notified the tech division, to start working on some kind of translation device. Jerry let them record some of his language. We also ran cursory scans of his ships. Nothing overt, as did not want to arouse suspicion, but data is attached. We've released some info on the press, to the press, and used one of our personnel to pose as Tar for the interview to make sure he towed the line. We don't think Tar will be a problem. We bluntly explained to him that if he keeps quiet, he gets to be the hero who made first contact rather than the idiot who nearly sparked the first interstellar war. Tar understood. In the meantime, we deployed scan arrays to Davian to keep an eye out, but will anticipate more contact in the coming days or weeks. I'm sure they're probably just as curious as us. They were curious. 2 weeks later, an alien delegation appeared in the Davian system and established contact with Sokolovich. Good lord. Over the next few months, the two races worked to break through the communication barrier. When we could finally interact, we learned that they were the Banu, a collective race of planet states who had also just started to explore the universe. On October of 2438, Sokolovich and the other delegates signed the first interstellar peace and trade accord with the Banu. And again, nothing can go wrong from an accord between nations or races at this point. Last article, first in space, 2460, entitled Breathe Free. This is a shorter one. Earth is overcrowded. Through expansion and terraforming, there are vast amounts of territory for humanity to move to, but there is still an apprehension among the public. It wasn't until RSI's The Air You Breathe campaign that people began to trickle out into the universe, eager to start over on a new world. Message exchange between Mark Carl, Willett and NGO Advertising, it's a non-government organization, advertising, Francois Kelson, RSI Corporation, regarding ad campaign. Mark: Hey Francois, legal has cleared the contract and the design team has signed the NDA, so it looks like we're in business. Francois: Outstanding. When can we start brainstorming? We're at your disposal now. What sort of campaign are you thinking? Well, I don't know. You tell me. Off the top of my head, I think we play up the feeling of opportunity. Earth will always be Earth, but we've kind of blasted the resources here. Indeed. You go to a new planet, the air will be cleaner. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Of course, I think there's something there. Everything's new. I mean, when was the last time you sat in a field? A real one? See what I mean? So it's the chance of rebirth, of starting over. It's about possibilities, the excitement of not knowing what to expect. But I don't want it to sound like it's savage. There's civilization and technology. Right, but there's space. There's room. Right. I want people to understand that they can have a new life. That's what the universe is offering us, a chance to start again. We want to give them the opportunity to realize that chance. In transmission. So I wanted to end on that one because I did ask, I thought it was interesting. I did ask the Twitter community and I got 62 responses on it, but would you leave Earth? And I kind of want to leave the call on that question, or this podcast on that question. Would you leave if Tesla or, I don't know, Amazon space, right? if NASA, if anybody came to you and said, hey, Earth is being overcrowded, resources are scarce, would you leave? And like actually think about that. It's not just like leaving a city or a state or going into a different country. Leaving Earth altogether. Would you leave it? What's really funny about that poll is like out of the 62 responses, 94% said yes, they would leave. They're like, screw it. I want nothing to do with Earth. This place is rotten. And there was like 6% that said that they would stay. So that might answer my question for me. But let that question sit in. If you're on a long drive, like when I first got into podcasting, listening to podcasts, I would drive from Austin, Texas to Lubbock, Texas. And that was 6 to 7 hours worth of a drive. And that's what I would listen to, are these like kind of deep questions, these conversations. Would you leave to start something completely new in another planet system? I don't think we're that far off, guys. I don't know. I don't want to speak in like, fantastical language here, but I don't think we're that far off. I think it's possible. Well, we had a great show. Thank you so much for joining on YouTube and watching and being part of the Spotlight community with Joran. That was a great conversation. We went through the next 80 years of lore. Firsts in space with the creation of the UNE, the contact with the Banu race, or the alien race, and then this idea of us all leaving Earth. So thank you for joining us. And if you're listening on podcast, feel free to join us on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central. But hopefully you have heard something that gets you fired up, gets you to hurry back into the game and experience 318.1. And with that, much love, family. You've been listening to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast with your host, Solus. Join our in-game organization, Soul Provision, by applying at www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. You can get involved in the conversation with your questions, comments, or emotional outbursts by emailing us at starcitizenbtv@gmail.com. Watch us live on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central at youtube.com/@StarCitizenBTV, and follow the conversation over at Twitter and Instagram, both at /StarCitizenBTV. Once again, thank you for joining us. We hope this finds you well. Until next time, safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse.